Hi everybody, I'm Bobbie Jo with Silka. Welcome to He Hunts, She Cooks. Today we are going back to the basics in the kitchen. I'm going to be showing all of you how to make some venison stock. It's a great use for all the bones. It's that whole nose to tail thing, and we love homemade stock. It's easy to do. It is a little bit time consuming, but most of the work is actually done in the oven or on the stove top. So let's get started here. Okay, I got some blacktail and whitetail bones. Danny saved them from a couple of his hunts. I threw them in the freezer for a few months, until we were ready to use them. So, pretty simple. We're going to take some tomato paste, and I'm going to smear it, just kind of smear it all over these bones, just like this. And that tomato paste is going to get like a really great umami flavor. We want to roast the bones because it starts to break down those, the bone marrow inside of the shank bones especially. And it's great because it really thickens the sauce. And when we roast it, it actually gives it a really great roasted flavor, and it helps all of the vegetables bring out that sugar that's naturally inside of them. So we just gotta get some of this tomato paste out of here. You can use whatever, breaded tomato paste, whatever you've got, doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be anything expensive. This is about, like I said, this is about utilizing, some of these parts that you wouldn't normally use, and they give you great flavor for soups, stews. People always say, well, how come your sauces taste so much better than mine when I throw it on a steak? Well, it's because I actually make a lot of homemade stocks, and like I said, this might be a little bit intensive to do this, but it really makes a great flavor for your sauces. You really want to bring out as much of that natural flavor as possible. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm just kind of like rubbing it all around, and I'll do this one. I have my oven up to about 400 degrees, and we're going to roast this for about 45 minutes. You want to make sure that they don't burn, because if you do burn this, or the vegetables get burnt, it'll ruin your sauce because it'll be bitter. It'll ruin your stock. Okay, so hold on 1 second, I want to get these tossed in here. Okay, so got a leek, just throw it in. This is a really rough chop. I mean, you don't have to do much of anything with this. I'm not really worried about it because this is all going to be kind of broken down and strained out. So all we're after is all of that really enriched stock. Okay, so we'll throw some in here. And we'll share the wealth. Throw some in this one. So I got some carrots, I've got some celery, a couple of leeks, some onions. I got a red onion because I had it in my fridge, and I've got a couple white onions, and I've got some aromatics. I've got some rosemary and some fresh thyme. So we don't want to spend a lot of time on this. We just want to get it in the oven and get it roasting. Let it do its thing. Besides, it's a little warm in my kitchen today, and I'm going to miss my workout if I don't get moving soon. So give these a toss in here. Now, I'm not even going to skin these. There's no need to, okay? Just toss them in. So this makes it really fast work. Okay, toss them in here. Now, the famous Escoffier, who taught everyone how to first do really great stock and demi-glace, says you want a 3-to-2 ratio with bones to liquid or water. And so what you can do is, if you want to know how much water you need to use, just measure out how much bones you have in pounds. And then a gallon of water weighs somewhere around, I think, I don't know, maybe 8 pounds, something like that. So that's really how you do it. You measure the amount of bones, and then you weigh the amount of water that you'll be using. Now, I'm probably not going to use quite as much water, simply because I want to reduce a little bit faster than that. And the reality is this will take probably about 24 hours to reduce down. But that's okay, because like I said, a lot of it is just kind of like, you're just going to go and let it do its thing. Okay, so I got some fresh thyme, toss it in there. You can put any aromatics you want, but I kind of like these for venison. Just a little bit of rosemary. I don't put too much rosemary in. It's a little strong. Okay, that's it. Toss it in the oven. We're going to leave it in there, like I said, about 35 to 40 minutes, 45, maybe even an hour. We're going to check on it after about 35, 40. Take a look. All right, that's it. Set it and forget it. I'll see you back here in about an hour. All right, you guys, I've pulled them out of the oven. Now at about 40 minutes, I took a look at them and they looked like they were browning a little too quickly. So I turned the oven down to 375 degrees and I ended up leaving them in overall for about an hour and 15 minutes. So I left it in just a little bit longer, but at a lower temperature. Now typically what you do is when you want to make a dark stock like this, you'll put all your bones and everything into a big stock pot, fill it full of water and put it on the stove for several hours and keep skimming it as you go. Well, the fact is it's a little late at night and I'm actually going to do it a little bit different way. And the way I actually like to do it is to put it back in the oven at a lower temperature after I fill up some water in there. And this way it'll kind of really develop that really great flavor in the water overnight, and in the morning all I have to do is strain it all out and reduce it just a little bit further on the stove. But this way I can get asleep all night. I don't have to be up and checking it all night. I don't have to check it all day. So this is my method. Now, you know, everybody has a different method. Like I said, usually in a stock pot people will do that on the top of the stove, but I don't want to leave an open flame all night long. I have pulled all-nighters, sleeping on the couch and setting the alarm every 5 minutes. So I don't want to do that, so I'm going to do it this way. And so now what I'm going to do is add a couple tablespoons of minced garlic. And dump the rest in here. I really like a lot of flavors, so I always add a lot to mine. So I'll set that aside. A little bit of salt. And it seems like a lot, but it's actually not, because there's going to be a lot of water in here. Okay. Add some juniper berries. I like the juniper berries because I'm doing venison, and juniper always works great with waging. So I don't know, maybe about 10 or so juniper berries per. I think that's good enough. A couple of bay leaves for each one. Love bay leaves. I run out of them constantly because I'm a bay leaf freak. I love using them. Some peppercorns, I don't know, you could go with about a tablespoon or so, maybe 3/4 tablespoon. Just toss them in. And then I'm going to do some garlic powder and onion powder. I don't know, it's probably about a good tablespoon or so, I think. I never measure anything, so let's see. Toss them in here. Toss them in here. Actually, I think I got throw a couple bay leaves in there too. I think I did. Put my peppercorns in there. Okay, so I have a pitcher of water. This is about 2 quarts. So I'm going to pour it in until it hits about above the top of the bones. So I've got it. So I'm going to need a little bit more in this one. So yeah, as I said, I'm going to leave it in overnight, 275 degrees. Pour this in. I'm going to add just a little bit more water to both. So it looks like I'm going to do probably about 3 quarts per pan. Like I said, I know this seems like there's a lot to go through, but when you get this really great stock and you get to use it in your recipes, it really does make all the difference. And I can tell you, I know I buy heavily reduced stock, and I can pay probably a container about $50 per container. So, well, it seems like a lot of work. And, you know, it can be. It's really worth it because stuff's expensive. So, as you can see, got it ready to go. Now I've got enough water in it. I've done about 2.5 quarts for each one. So now I'm going to cover it and then get it in the oven. Put a little bit of aluminum foil. Alright, I've got these covered. So I'm going to put them in the oven, set the timer for about 8 hours, and so I will see you in the morning. We're going to pull this out, and for the full recipe, go to hehuntssecooks.com, venison stock. I've got them in the oven. We're going to set the timer for about 8 hours. So I will see you guys in the morning when I pull these out. Have a good night. Alright you guys, I had these in the oven overnight. I had them for about a total of 9 hours, 8 hours of cook time and about an hour to cool so that way I could handle them. So now all I have to do is remove all of these bones, and then I have a pot over here with a strainer on it, and I'm going to actually strain the rest of the you know, the spices and everything that I had in it to get it a really nice stock, a nice clean stock. So that's all I have to do. It's so easy. So I'm just going to pull out some of these bones. It's like, look at all the meat on these bones. It's like it's going to knot on them. And so I'm going to continue doing this and then strain it out. Okay guys, I've cleaned out all the bones out of here, so now all I have to do is very carefully start pouring this stock in here and letting it kind of sift through the paper towels and the colander, and it'll go down into the pan. So you'll have to do this a little bit slowly because, you know, there's a lot of broth. You know, and every once in a while go ahead and stop and let it kind of sift through. Look how dark the broth is. It's just so rich. You can just see, just from the color of it, it's just beautiful. I'm going to stop here. I'll let it drain out a little bit. Look, clarifying the broth. The stock is just going to be so rich. What you can also do is even reduce this down further and create what's called an espagnole, which is a thickening agent, and it makes demi-glace. That's one of those really great French sauces that are great with really great steak. And what you do is, after you reduce it down, you put it in some ice cube trays, freeze the cubes, and then pop them out whenever you need just a couple to make a really quick sauce. It's like already done. That's what chefs do in restaurants. Okay, so I'm going to add some more. So I'm going to continue to do this until all of this is all clarified and down through the pan here. Alright, so I've strained the first roasting pan. So if you can see here, I put it in a glass measuring cup to just so you can see how dark it is, how rich it is. Now what I'm going to do is put this in the fridge, and we're going to skim off all this fat layer that you can see here on the top because we don't want that. So this is a great base for any kind of soups or stews. Now what you can do to store this, you can put it in the freezer. A couple ways you can do that. You can put it in a Ziploc bag, get it frozen. You can put it in ice cube trays. You can put it into some canning jars, but leave a couple inches of space so that way, you know, when it expands, it won't just crack all over the place. If you have a pressure canner, you can also can it, and that gives it a really great shelf life. Now, make sure it's a pressure canner only because this is meat. You don't want to use just your regular canner for when you do things like jellies and jams. That's very different type of process. So anyway, there you have it. I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to be using it probably here in a couple weeks for maybe a good soup or stew. So anyway, I'll see you next time. He Hen She Cooks. Bye.